Welcome to Rock and Blues Revue. Today we're speaking to Tom Hambridge, probably the best kept secret in the music business. With an amazing 86 music awards, including 10 Grammy nominations and 4 wins, the Buffalo born artist is celebrated among his peers but relatively unknown to the public. His collaborations as writer, producer, and musician would fill pages, but a few of the greats he's worked alongside include Buddy Guy, B.B. King, Roy Buchanan, ZZ Top, Leonard Skinner, Kingfish Ingram, Foghat, Susan Tedeschi, Meatloaf, George Thorogood, Johnny Winter, Joe Bonamassa, John Mayall, Devin Allman, Jeff Beck, Steve Cropper, and far too many more to mention. Check out his Wikipedia page for a complete list. Through my work with BluesRockReview.com, I reached Tom at his home in Nashville. So let's dive right in. Hello, Tom. I just can't say you got the most amazing resume ever. How do you do it?
Oh, thank you. I don't know. It just adds up after a while. You keep doing it, you know?
Do they come looking for you? All these artists looking for a hand, or
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a manager or anything or any kind of representation. Uh, been fortunate, knock on wood. People just seem to either hear something and they find out I wrote it or produced it or played on it, and then they kind of try to find me, you know? And a lot of them go to my website, which I've had, and I have a guy that sends me emails from people, and but then again, a lot of artists talk to other artists, you know.
yeah, it's just, I mean, the list is just something else. So, all right, let's start. So you went to Berkeley,
Yep.
and then I see 3 years later you were with Roy Buchanan. So how did that happen?
Yeah, I was still in school. Yeah. Um, well, when I got to Berkeley, I had already been playing professionally since I was really young. I'd always been playing gigs around town and playing with older musicians in bands, and so I was always active in bands and playing. So when I got to Berkeley, I just continued that. It was in Boston though. I moved from Buffalo to Boston, and I checked into my dormitory and I got the local rock and roll magazines, and I found out if anyone was looking for a drummer, and I immediately got an audition and played in a band, and I was actually the lead singer drummer in this band. I remember out of Rhode Island, and I didn't know who they were. It was called Eternity at the time. They were called Eternity, and I auditioned and got the gig. And I remember my professors at Berkeley and some of the people I met there would be seeing me take my drums out of the locker and put them in a cab, to go. And they go, "Where are you going? Are you leaving school? Are you giving up?" And I'd be like, no, I'm going to a gig. I got a gig down at the pub over here, or the whatever. And so I just continued playing. So even in my second or third year, I got an audition for Roy Buchanan, and it was really a long tour. So it was going to interrupt my schooling. But I went to my teachers and I just said, is it possible for me to miss the next 4 weeks and make it up? And they were like, no, you can't do that. This is college, you got to be here. And I said, okay. They said, what are you doing? And I said, I've got the gig with Roy Buchanan. And all of my professors were like, oh man, just go take it, because that's what you were going to school for. That's what you were trying to do. Even the professors wanted that gig. So yeah, they said, yeah, it's a dream gig. Just go do it. And so I started playing with people like Roy Buchanan and Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley, a lot of my heroes, that I was very fortunate to be able to play drums for.
You say that so matter of factly, naming these people. How do you go from one to the other? How did the Buchanan thing come in the first place? Did you as an audition, an open call, or
Yeah, it's a strange thing, this business we're in, this music business. All different ways things happen, which is why I always tell younger people who come to me and say, how do I get from A to B? How do I get down this road? I say, you know, you just gotta you got to show up. You got to be there. You got to just keep hanging and knocking on the door, because I was playing in a band and I got a gig to back up a singer. And, I don't even, I did it for a couple nights, or I don't know. And because I was freelancing with people. And then that guy called me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in auditioning for Roy Buchanan?" And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Well, I turned your name into this person, this manager person. They said he was looking for a drummer that could sing, and you came to mind." And I said, "Yeah, this could be a guy." So I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love Roy Buchanan. My older brother had all his records." And so I was supposed to audition, and the audition ended up being a couple of guys in the band came. I met them at my apartment, and I thought we were going to play, and they just talked to me about stuff and met me. And then they said, "Okay, we're going to do a real audition at a place." And that never happened. So I figured I didn't get the gig. And then about a week before the first show of the tour, they called and they said, "You're the guy." And we're going to start rehearsing. And I said, "Okay." And we never rehearsed. Everything canceled. Roy's flight got canceled. And I met Roy about when I was going on stage for the first show of the tour. And he said, "Hey, how you doing? You're Tom, right?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You're the new drummer." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well," and I go, "What are we going to play? What are we going to do?" And he goes, "Oh, what do you want to play?" And I remember saying, "Well, I want to play whatever you want to play." And he goes, "Well, we'll kick it off and figure it out." And that was the first night. I remember the next night was New York City, the Lone Star, and we went on and on, but that's how it started. Where I got recommended and then fell into it, and then I was playing with him for years. He'd call me. We became friends. I did his last gig he ever played on this earth. So
What do you think happened to him?
I think he got. I wasn't there, but from all the people that I talked to around it, I think he got beat up in jail, and he got a crushed larynx. That's what he died of. Somebody grabs you, and so they said he hung himself. But in a jail cell that I don't think it's made not to be able to hang yourself, and he didn't have anything to hang himself with. So they said he dummied up his shirt somehow and put his legs up, and Roy was not that kind of nimble athletic guy. He was an older guy, and I think he could be a wise ass when he was drinking, and he was in the wrong place.
Yeah, I mean those are what I've heard, but I've never heard anyone as close to it as you. Yeah, sucks either way.
Yeah,
Terrible,
absolutely terrible.
terrible. All right, so you, what do you prefer? Playing, writing, producing?
I like doing it all, and I really uh, I wouldn't have it any other way. I really do. I enjoy all the aspects of it, and I probably wouldn't be happy if I was just in the studio every day as a producer and I didn't play live or I didn't write songs. I kind of do it all, and it works out because people come to me when they want me to make their record. They usually want me to write the songs, play drums, arrange the band, arrange the music, and record it and produce it and mix it and master it. So all the things that go into it are all the things I love to do. So fortunately, I do all that. So I'm not the producer guy that you just call and you have all the songs and you have all the ideas and you have all the players, and I sit there and drink coffee and read the paper and say, "Yep, play another song." I'm in there. I'm playing with everybody. I've written the song usually, so I'm saying, "Listen, this is how it goes. This is what we need to do here," and so I love being in the trenches.
You certainly are.
Like I say, this list is amazing. So is there anyone you haven't played with that you'd love to?
Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm sure there's lots, but probably off the top of my head is my standard answer is Paul McCartney.
Mm.
Um, just from being such a big Beatles fan, like everybody in the universe, and I've got to play with Ringo and a lot of the Stones, and people like all my heroes, But I've met Paul, but I just have so much respect for his musicality and what he's done and changed the world. So, and John Lennon's not around anymore either. Is George. So
Yeah.
uh, they would be probably the three. Um, so it would be great to make some music with Paul at some point.
So you're also cross genres all the time.
Yeah.
It, I'm gonna guess that you like doing that too. You don't like being stuck in one.
Yeah, I'm like anyone else. I'm a music lover. I have a collection of records that go miles long, and I grew, my older brother turned me on to everybody from Mahavishnu Orchestra to the Allman Brothers to the Grateful Dead to Muddy Waters and to Jonathan Edwards or to whoever. I mean, so the palette's wide. So I never thought of myself as a genre specific person. I never even used that word. I just write music and play music and I listen to music that I think is fantastic, whether it's jazz, Miles Davis, or folk music, or anything. I love it all, and it just so happens that um, a lot of the records I started making from Johnny Winter and Susan Tedeschi, they did really well on the blues in the blues. Yeah, they did well in AAA and Americana. I mean, they were good, but I kind of all of a sudden BB King asked me to do something with him, and Buddy Guy, and Kenny Neal, and then Joe Louis Walker, and all these kind of really hip, legendary blues people, started calling, and uh, I don't think I changed anything. I was just whether it was a George Thorogood record or a Kebmo record, whatever record I was making, I just wanted to make the best record for that artist. And when they would ask me to write songs, I wrote songs the way I thought I'd like to hear Buddy Guy sing and what I think he would like, what I'd like him to say. And so that's kind of, and then these records ended up, winning the Blues Awards, Albums of the Year, and Songs of the Year. And but I never sat around thinking, I'm the blues producer. I'm gonna, I just make records, and you know, I don't know if that's getting off subject but that's,
Well,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if ZZ Top walks in the door, Billy Gibbons, and we're gonna write something, we'll write something, and if it comes out on ZZ Top record, it usually sounds like ZZ Top, and you know, and I wrote a song on one of their last record, Over You, and I remember when he walked in the door, it was not for him. I was writing this song kind of on my piano over there, and it was not. It was a ballad. It was kind of a soul thing. I was writing it for someone else, and he showed up, and he immediately said, "What was that you were doing?" And I said, "Oh, that's nothing. That's nothing. We can write something like Tube Snake Boogie together, or Waiting for the Bus, And he went, "No, I like that. What was that?" And so I ended up showing it to him, and we ended up finishing it, and it's a big song on one of their records, Over You, And it never would have crossed my mind to put that on it, but he really liked it. He put B3 on it. They're a guitar bass drum band trio, and it's got B3 and it's really cool. So I mean, that's just another little example of the way things happen. You know, um, Good music is good music.
you know, I don't know, but I'm saying that that probably happens often because of you had so much exposure to so many guys doing so many different things, they must come to you also looking for something different than they've been doing.
You know, you might be right there. I never really thought about that, but I think it's because I am into the creative process of it, writing. So maybe they do think maybe I'm going to come at it a little different way, and but I'm you know however it happens, I'm always excited, to be a part of it.
I've seen so many of those guys that you've worked with, and it for me, it's funny to look at that list and say, oh, you know what? Like I've seen him, I've talked to him, I've seen him, and knowing that there's a connection to you so many times. The one I'm looking at right now is Colin Linden. Now, good
Oh,
Canadian boy
oh
who's
yeah.
who's now he's in Nashville too, I believe.
Yep.
And you guys must you guys must get along because that guy knows so much. He's so knowledgeable.
Oh yeah. Colin's a dear friend. Yeah. I mean, I've written many songs with Colin, and I'm just getting rid of some things that keep popping on my screen here. Um, Colin Linden, man, he's just such a beautiful soul, beautiful person, talented. What a great singer, what a great artist, what a great producer. Actually, I can tell you one thing I did is I brought him in when I was doing I did a James Cotton album called Cottonmouth Man, and it was his last album. He was nominated for a Grammy, and he, from cancer and stuff, he couldn't sing anymore. Still play great harmonica. So when I made the record, he said, "How are we going to do this?" And of course, and I said, "Well, I'm going to reach out to some of my friends, which I'm sure are some of your friends, and we'll have them sing. But we'll write songs, me and you will write songs about your life. And so we wrote the whole album. He came to Nashville here, and I called Delbert McClinton and Warren Haynes and Greg Allman, and all these people came out to sing these songs. But there was one song called Bonnie Blue, and that was because he said I'd like to have a song called Bonnie Blue. I said, what's Bonnie Blue? And he said, well, that's the plantation that I was raised on, you know, with my family. And I was like, a plantation? He goes, yeah, back in the day, that was the plantation. And so we wrote this song together, and I said, that's the only one that I don't want anyone else to sing. I want you to sing that. And I want it to be the last song on the record. And he said, oh, I wouldn't be able to, I can't, I'm embarrassed to sing because he's had this, he talked like that, I would do it, I don't know, And I said, I don't care what you sound like. You have to utter these words. And he said, well, how we do it? I go, I have the perfect guy, Colin Linden. He goes, who? I go, this friend of mine, Colin Linden, and it'll be me, Colin, and you. Because he said, I don't want to sing in front of anybody. And I said, we're just going to get in a room and we're going to play this song. Colin's going to play guitar and you'll sing it. And you'll be so comfortable. And Colin came in, of course, and the minute he met Colin, he thought, yeah, this is going to work. I feel very comfortable with this cat. And so that's on his record, and it's just a beautiful moment. But Colin, I actually went out and played drums for Blackie and the Rodeo Kings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he called me, and so I played on one of Tom Wilson's solo records because he did it in Nashville. He asked me to play drums on that, and then their drummer, who's great, couldn't be out on a certain leg of a tour in Western Canada, so I flew out to Calgary and ended up playing drums with Blackie and the Rodeo Kings. It was a ball. It was great.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
So, you said you've taken a little bit of time off. The last time we talked, you mentioned doing something more with Kingfish. Anything happening there now, or?
Yeah. We just about 3 weeks ago or so. So I just finished this world tour with Buddy Guy that was going on for about 2 years, and
Yes.
we played in every country in the world, and it's, so that's, I think, probably what I was saying. I was so happy to just be back home and not on tour. And I'm actually producing a new Buddy Guy record. So I'm in the middle of that. And I'm in the middle, and so Kingfish came in about 2 weeks ago to Nashville, and we recorded a bunch of songs for his next record. And I did the new Allie Venable record, which I'm just finishing up. The single came out this week, a song called "Do You Cry" that I wrote with her, and we wrote the record right here, sitting here. A lot of the artists come here, and the new Devin Allman record, Miami Moon. I recorded that in Miami, and that's out. That's doing really well. And a Jovan Webb, who's a new artist you need to check out. He's on Blind Pig, and his record's blowing up. Jovan Webb. It's called The Drifter, and I did that record that just came out. Another artist named Sonny Coolidge. I just did his record. I finished that one. That just came out. He was from American Idol, very successful on there. Great piano player, soul singer. I did a kind of a Americana record called Codger by a guy named Clint Morgan, and we did that with Mickey Raphael from Willie Nelson's band on harmonica, and T. Graham Brown sang on the record. It was great. Dan Dugmore. It's a really cool record. I don't know. I had a record out called Blues Revue that's doing well out on the radio.
I just saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's exciting because a lot of Joe Bonamassa did a duet with me on the record. Buddy Guy did a duet with me on the Kingfish. We did a song called "The Blues Don't Care," which I had written years ago that Gary Clark Jr. had recorded with Buddy, and we did that in New York City. I remember, yeah, at Electric Ladyland. So Kingfish is on my new record, and that's doing well. And I'm going to do Joe Bonamassa's cruise coming up in March with my band, and my band will be out doing a few shows. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm back. I'm off the road, but I'm working. I'm going to the studio every day and making records.
Now, I won't keep you too long, but you mentioned American Idol, and at the beginning you mentioned about young people getting going. Do you think that's a viable way, or, I mean, it's not for everybody, obviously, but
Yeah. I mean, it's not the way I grew up doing it, or all my contemporaries. We went out and tried to get a gig and practiced in a garage, and one by one trying to get a fan somewhere along the line. But I guess in this day and age, with people just going viral on YouTube or TikTok or something, so I guess there is a way to skip ahead and do that. These two guys that because I did a Casey James record, 2 records for Casey James. He's a wonderful artist, great singer, and he was on American Idol or one of those shows. I don't actually always watch those shows, but so I'm not aware. But when he came to me, he said, "Yeah, I came in third on American Idol or whatever." And all I know is when he came over here, he started singing, and we started writing together. I thought, this guy's talented. This guy's got what a voice, and a lot to say. So, and the same with Jovan Webb. I didn't know that he had done so well on American Idol, or Sonny had either. But the record company, Blind Pig, called me, and they said, "We think you're the guy to write these records and do these records." And so I know that Katy Perry and Lionel Richie loved these guys, on TV, but I wasn't watching the TV. But when they came here, and Sonny started playing the piano and singing, and Jovan started writing songs with me, playing harmonica, I said, "These guys are talented. They're from Louisiana. They're one's from New Orleans. They know music inside out. It's in their blood. They're so talented." And so it was easy to collaborate and make their records. And I hope they become very, very big. But I mean, they got their way to me and the record label through American Idol or a television show. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I guess that is, one of the ways now that people, you know.
Yeah. I mean, because that's what I hear. I mean, we did, I've been doing a festival in Thorold. Well, started in 2002. We had a couple years off there. Now I'm just kind of helping. But, I hear it so much with guys we're bringing in, they can't break out of that cycle of touring the clubs and the bars. And some of them are so good. It's very kind of heartbreaking to see that they're not getting somewhere. And so that's the question. And what do we do? Where do we go? And I've talked to some record guys. I don't have any connections, but I talk to them, and I'm sometimes disappointed at the way they're dismissed without really listening, or even, like really a cursory glance and saying that.
I know it's a hard thing. I think if you want to do this and play music, it's got to be a thing, a passion and your love. You have to just want to do it, because there are no guarantees. There are no. I've known I've known so many wonderful, gifted artists that slip through the cracks. And they just never, never have a hit record. They never, get to play in front of all the people. And so it's hard.
I know. And actually, I just glanced over and I see you've got Jeremiah Johnson on your list, and he was one of them a few years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
you know,
There's so many that are just wonderful, but that's why I think you just got to love to do it. You got to just want to keep doing it, because, um, I mean, I guess the old cliches, like, or I don't even know it's a cliche, but I always think, um, if you write something and it means a lot to people, and you play it for five people and they start crying because it's wonderful, that's just as valid as some song that's on the radio that's half as good, or I don't know, I mean, you have to realize, art, I guess it's like Picasso or something, painting and no one liking it.
hmm,
And then, years later, everyone thinking, he's the best ever, but so I think you just got to, keep creating and doing good work. And some record that's sitting on my desk here that I made for somebody that it didn't do well, maybe 20 years from now, someone's going to discover it, and they're going to go, man, this is the best thing ever. This guy must have been so good. And you're going to go, yeah, I saw that kid. He was so good. He played our festival. I don't know, but for now, I think you just got to keep. I mean, Kingfish, he's great. He's fantastic. And people buy his records and people flock to him. It's great. Susan Tedeschi, when I made Just Won't Burn, it just blew up. It just happened. Timing, everything has to work. And then there's someone else that it doesn't happen to. And you might be aware of some artist that comes around and you're familiar with, it just is great, but it's just not, the songs haven't been right. It haven't been the right time. Something.
yeah. Um, yeah, okay. So from a practical standpoint, though, one of the knocks I kind of have is that I think that some of these agents just get into a groove of booking them into clubs and bars, same place every year, same time of year, every year. I, I get the feeling they don't have the best interest of the artist in hand, because they don't give them time to relax, record, take a break, or try to get them to the next level. They just keep booking those bars. And how do you break that cycle if you're trying to eat?
These are great questions. I mean, this is the deal. You have to probably have somebody that, you have to have an agent that wants you to get to the next level and believes you can, or a manager or somebody that says, no, we need to go to this next level. And I'm sure that if you play a city, let's just call it a fictitious city, I don't care, you play St. Louis every year, and you play it, and there's a club there, and it's a 200 seat club, and you put 200 seat people in there, and you go back and you do the same thing, 200, 200, 200. Well, at some point you got to play the 1,000 seater down the street, and you got to see if you're going to put 800 people in there or 600. You got to do that. And it's not easy for the band. It's not easy because they don't want to blow it. Maybe that 1,000 seater down the road says, well, we're not going to guarantee you any money. If whoever comes, you'll get that money. And the club down the road says, we'll guarantee you $800.
Right.
You know what I mean? And no matter who shows, or if it rains, or if it snows. So it's not, I mean, these are age old questions, like, how do you get to the next level? I've known artists that have got a record on the radio that's blowing up, and then they try to move to a bigger place and no one shows up. It's not connecting. The radio play is not connecting to the artist, So I guess there's a lot of different ways it happens,
Yeah, but that's an interesting point you made about the 1,000 seater, because basically you're suggesting that the artist or the manager take that chance and get the venue rather than the venue coming to you.
Yeah. Because I mean, I don't think it's like people don't, once you start making money for them, they show up. Like it's the age of, how are you going to get a manager? How are you going to get a big manager? Well, the manager wants 20% of something, and he doesn't want to work all day and get 20% of nothing.
Hmm.
So you have to already be making a lot of money for the manager to come take 20%. It's like that age old thing. Once you make a lot of money, someone will want to take 20% of that.
Yeah.
And so, it's not an easy road, but, I guess, I don't know the answers to this stuff. I mean, if I did, I'd be playing bigger places myself,
Well, at least I don't feel bad, because I always wonder about this stuff, but it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think, Joe Bonamassa, he ended up doing that. He just went and paved his own way. He said, no, I'm going to rent out the bigger place in town, and I'm going to hand out flyers, and I'm going to try to get people to come see me at this bigger place. And they don't want to pay me. They said, you make whatever you make. I'll try to make what I make.
Yeah.
And he did that, and he gambled on himself, and obviously it paid off. And so, I think, Buddy Guy says it all the time. He says, you just got to keep going. He goes, there were times he was driving across the country in a van and not knowing if anyone was going to show up, but he showed up, and he got there and slowly built it. Sometimes it doesn't happen as quickly as you want it to. He's 88 now.
Yeah.
and now it's working,
Yeah.
but but I mean, I've been making these records with him, and he's winning the Grammys, and all this stuff's happening, and his price is going up, and he's playing to more people, he's selling out everywhere. But he spent 40 years in the van driving through snowstorms when that wasn't happening. So, but he didn't give up. And so I don't know how it works or but at the bottom line to me is you got to make good music, and you got to believe in yourself and keep trying. And to do that, you got to want to do it. You got to have a passion for it and love to do it, because there are going to be times when, people just close the door in your face, or things don't go well, or the van breaks down, or whatever. So you got to hopefully be with a group of guys that you enjoy being with and making music with, and be doing it for the right reasons, So,
Well, I'm about to run out of time here, I see. Um, so thank you for everything. I'm glad that you're just a guy too.
oh yeah. I don't have any of the answers either, man.
Well, I wouldn't say that because you've been so damn busy. How many years you've been at it?
Man, my whole life. So I started my first professional gig was, I don't know, the third grade. That's when the first time I got paid, and I've been doing it which is now about 100 years. So I mean, seriously, I'm just, it's nothing. I don't know how to do anything else. So I just, knock on wood, just and people keep trying to find me,